Students, I am Mrs. Manju Sharma and today we will start our chapter 4 Electoral Politics in Political Science of class 9th. In previous chapter we have seen that in democracy it is neither possible nor necessary for people to govern directly. The most common form of democracy in our times is for the people to govern through their representative. So in this chapter we will look at how these representatives are elected. So first question is why election? Why elections are important? We can see the newspaper report in our book, and the newspaper report is about the state assembly election in Haryana in 1987. The state had been ruled by a Congress party led government since 1982. Chaudhry Devilal, then an opposition leader, led a movement called Naya Yudh, Struggle for Justice, and formed a new party, Lok Dal. His party promised the people that if he won the election, he will release the all the loans of farmers. Once the results were announced, the sitting chief minister resigned. The newly elected members of Legislative Assembly of Lok Dal chose Devilal as their leader. The governor invited Devilal to be the new chief minister, and 3 days after the election results were declared, he became the chief minister. As soon as he became the chief minister, his government issued a government order waiving the outstanding loans of small farmers. This example shows that elections are very useful so that we can change our representative if they are not working according to our wish. Now, the next question is why do we need election? Elections take place regularly in any democracy. We noted in chapter 1 that there are more than 100 countries in the world in which elections take place to choose people's representative. We also read that elections are held in many countries but that are democratic. So now question is why do we need elections? We need elections because we can choose who will make laws for us. We can choose who will form the government and take our major decisions. We can choose the party whose policies will guide the government and law making. Now, the question is what makes an election democratic? First, everyone should be able to choose. This means that everyone should have one vote and every vote should have equal value. Second, there should be something to choose from. Parties and candidates should be free to contest election and should offer some real choices. Third, the choice should be offered at regular intervals. Fourth, the candidate preferred by the people should get elected. Fifth, election should be conducted in a free and fair manner. These might look like very simple and easy conditions, but there are many countries where these are not fulfilled. In this chapter, we will apply these conditions to the elections held in our own country to see if we can call these democratic elections. Now, the question, it is good to have campaigning or not? Elections are thus all about political competition. This competition take various forms. The most obvious form is the competition among political parties at the constituency level. But it is good to have political competition clearly. An elected competition has many demerits and merits also. Our constitution makers were aware of these problems, yet they adopted for free competition in election as the way to select our future leaders. They did so because this system works better in the long run. In an ideal world, all political leaders know what is good for the people and they are motivated only by a desire to serve them. Now we will know about the system of elections in our country. We say that Indian elections are democratic. Yes. To answer this question, let us take a look at how elections are held in India. Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha elections are held regularly after every 5 years. After 5 years, the term of all the elected representative comes to end. The Lok Sabha or Vidhan Sabha stand dissolves. Elections are held in all constituency at the same time, either on the same day or within a few days. This is called a general elections. And sometimes election is held only for one constituency to fill the vacancy caused by death or resignation of a member. This is called a by-election. Now, electoral constituencies. The country is divided into different areas for purpose of elections. These areas are called electoral constituencies, the voter who live in an area elect one representative for Lok Sabha elections. The country is divided into 543 constituencies. Now we will know about the reserved constituencies. There are some reserved constituencies. The constitution makers, however, were worried that in an open electoral competition, certain weaker sections may not stand a good chance to get elected to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly. They may not have the required resources, education, and context to contest the election and win elections against the other. So, sub constituency are reserved for people who belong to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes. In a SC reserved constituency, only someone who belongs to the scheduled caste, and in ST, someone who is belong to the ST can contest the election of their constituencies. The next step is voter list. Once the constituency are decided, the next step is to decide who can and who cannot vote. This decision cannot be left to anyone till the last day. In a democratic election, the list of those who are eligible to vote is prepared much before the election and given to everyone. This list is officially called the electoral roll, is commonly known as the voter list. The next is nomination of candidates. We noted that in a democratic election, people should have a real choice. This happens only when there are almost no restriction on everyone to contest an election. This is what our system provides. Every person who wishes to contest an election has to fill a nomination form and give some money as security deposit. Every candidate has to make a legal declaration giving full details of serious criminal cases pending against the candidate, details of the assets and liabilities of the candidate and his or her family, education qualification of the candidates. The next is the election campaign. The election campaigning, the main purpose of election is to give people a chance to choose the representative, the government and the policies they prefer. Therefore, it is necessary to have a free and open discussion about who is better representative, which party will make a better government or what is good policy. This is what happens during election campaigning. The next is polling and counting of votes. The final stage of an election is the day when the voters cast or poll their vote. That day is usually called the election day. Every person whose name is on the voter list can go to a nearby polling booth, situated usually in a local school or a government office. Once the voter goes inside the booth, the election officers identify her, put a mark on her finger, and allow her to cast her or his vote. Now, the question is, what makes election in India democratic? We get to read a lot about unfair practices in elections. Newspaper and television reports often refer to such allegations. Most of these reports are about the following: inclusion of false names and inclusion of genuine names in the voter list, misuse of government facilities, excessive use of money by rich, intimidation of voters, and rigging on the polling day. Many of these reports are correct. We feel unhappy when we read or see such reports, but fortunately, they are not on such a scale so as to defeat the very purpose of elections. Now, we will go ahead on Independent Election Commission. One simple way of checking whether elections are fair or not is to look at who conducts the election. Are they independent of the government, or can the government or the ruling party influence or pressurize them? Do they have enough power to be able to conduct free and fair elections? Do they actually use these powers? The answer to all the questions is quite positive for our country. In our country, elections are conducted by an independent and very powerful election commissions. It enjoys same kind of independence that the judiciary enjoys. Now, the next is popular participation. Another way to check the quality of the election process is to see whether people participate in it with enthusiasm. If the election process is not free or fair, people will not continue to participate in the exercise. People participation in election is usually measured by the voter turnout figure. Turnout indicates the percent of eligible voters who actually cast their vote. In India, the poor, illiterate, and underprivileged people vote in larger proportion as compared to the rich. Common people in India attach a lot of importance to elections. They feel that through elections they can bring pressure on political parties. The interest of voters in elections related activities has been increasing over the year. Now we can say that the popular participation in India is seen. Acceptation of election outcome. One final test of the free and fairness of election has in outcome of itself. It elections are not free or fair. The outcome always favors the powerful. In such a situation, the ruling parties do not lose election. Usually, losing party does not accept the outcome of rigged election, but it is not in India. What are the challenges to free and fair election in India? All these leads to a simple conclusion. Election in India are basically free and fair. The party that wins an election and forms government does so because people have chosen it over its rival. This may not be true for every constituency. A few candidates may win purely on the basis of money, power, and unfair means. Yet the picture looks different if we ask deeper questions. Are people's preference based on real knowledge? Are the voters getting a real choice? Is election really for everyone? Can an ordinary citizen hope to win elections? Yes, in our country it is possible. So we can say that in India the elections are free and fair, and the popularity of elections is increasing day by day because these elections are fair in our country. So students, now our chapter is completed. Goodbye.